Okay, so we are live on our first Chimera roundtable discussion. If you're watching this live, you'll probably noticed we got um, kicked out, our camera turned off. So once a month, we're going to have a roundtable discussion. This is our first one. Today's topic is about teaching Nigel how to read and write. And we have 6 people on this panel. Start with a quick introduction. My name is Munir Sita, and I'm founder and CEO of Kimera Systems. Been working on the Nigel technology and the science behind intelligence for the past decade.
I'm Nick Gilman, COO and co-founder of Kimera Systems. Glad you're watching.
I'm Adam Peer, Head of Marketing for Kimera Systems. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Sandy Hoppenrath, and I'm a 5th grade teacher.
I'm Jennifer Falkowski, and I'm a kindergarten teacher.
And I'm Nikki Carter, and I too am a kindergarten teacher, but I teach English language to the kinder kids.
All right, so normally when we talk about teaching AI or training AI, we use computer science people, and I'm assuming there's no computer scientist on this, at least on the other side of the table here.
No.
So, talking about teaching AI, what do you guys think? I mean, it's kind of like a kids, right?
Yeah. Amazingly so, because you're putting input and getting output.
Hopefully getting output.
Yeah, hopefully. That's our hope every single day.
Well, it's definitely forced us to think outside the box, because it's much different than trying to teach a kid, because there's different senses involved. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's challenging.
the different senses is Nigel, at least as of today, can't see, can't touch, can't
Your sounds.
Feel.
hear sounds. But you can feel other stuff, right?
Yeah.
You can feel Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and
Home.
locations
Locations,
and text and calls and anything that goes on a device. So it still has a sensory apparatus,
Yeah.
but it's really different than children or humans,
Yes.
not just children.
Right. Well, that's what's been interesting. I think it's also made me kind of a better teacher right now,
Yeah.
really analyzing our craft and what we do and how we teach this new child.
And well, in the process that how we teach children, when you really break it down. I've been teaching for 21 years now, and it's something that comes very naturally for me. So when I have to think about, well, how do you teach a child how to read? I mean, I know I could because I have a master's degree in that, and yet, breaking down the step by step, the curriculum to that, and how to develop that process. Besides,
So teaching teaching children, I wouldn't say it's a proven thing, is it? We know how to teach children today, right? It's kind of like you said, this one, well, hopefully it's making you a better teacher, but it's forcing everyone to kind of step back and rethink, why are we doing this? Why are we teaching certain things? Is that true, or would you agree with that or disagree?
or like, why are we teaching this certain topic or this certain thing to children, or are we talking about AI?
Well, in both, I guess, in general, because when children come to school, even at the kindergarten level, they learn basic stuff.
Yeah.
Here you have an AI that wasn't programmed to know anything. With some minor exceptions, some basic knowledge. And the one thing we know about this AI, it is much faster learner than humans. Give an example. Took it 3 days to learn that it's common sense to silence the phone at the movie theater. My oldest is 9, and she's barely at the point where she remembers to turn stuff off at the movie theater. So it's a fast learner.
Yeah.
Which causes a challenge, it's an advantage and disadvantage.
I think it makes us think a little bit about the similarities in that you guys, we've compared Nigel to a toddler that we need to teach, just like when babies or toddlers and kids, we teach them, and we teach them in a very basic way that then progresses. And I think that as we go into this venture to teach Nigel, it'll be the same. We start very basic, and then as we discover what he's learning and how he's learning that, then we can go to the more specific type of a thing. And it's the same when we're working with kids. We start very basic. They come to us with a very broad comprehension of their world based upon what they've been around in language from birth to 5. And then when we teach them how to turn that and recognize sounds, and sounds make words, and words make sentences, and those sentences become knowledge, then they can run with that, and their comprehension becomes that much more. And I think there's some similarities and differences that as we've gone on this trip with you guys between Nigel, that are going to be much more challenging to teach than potentially teaching with a kid, but then also much more maybe not as challenging, because he'll learn it so much quicker than maybe what kids would learn sometimes.
Right. I suppose that one of the differences would be in a human child, you have these massive amounts of sensory input coming in, and I guess part of when a child is learning is to sort of figure out what to disregard and what to focus on, right? So that may be a fundamental difference that you'll be noticing.
So you mentioned comprehension, which I think we define very differently from our side of the table to your side of the table. When we think comprehension, it's about a mathematical model that we calculate, and out we get a result which tells us if Nigel comprehends something or not. Obviously, you don't stand there with a calculator trying to figure out the kids comprehend something. So what is comprehension to you?
Well, it's different in a lot of ways. There's that literal comprehension. I can read a story to a student and ask them what was the story about? What was the beginning, the middle, the end, the characters, what are their names, who are they? And then so they're really into that type of, in the lower grades, into that literal type of comprehension. And then when you get up onto my end of things, it's really trying to have them make meaning out of what they are reading. What is the theme of the story, or what is it making you feel? I'm really getting into that more.
Well, and we start in the primary grades, so because we know that trajectory, that where they're going in the upper grades. So we start very ground level, like, well, how do you think that character felt when this happened, or how are they feeling right now in the story? So it's more of that intuitive explanation we're looking for, and sometimes you even have to build on that. But I mean, at least in my classroom, I try to do it in a very natural way. So teaching, it's not formulaic. However, there is a formula to it. You do have certain things there's things that are proven in data that I've read, and there's research, but the way you deliver it to your students it should be very natural, where they're involved, and there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of talk that you do, and you teach them. I mean, I teach them from kindergarten up to turn and talk to someone, so they're sharing ideas. So it's very similar to AI, because you have your users that are sharing. It's basically, I mean, Nigel's sharing his ideas literally with himself, but it's almost like friends sharing information with each other, and so that would be the natural part of, so seeing like the similar, like, of the comprehension, because you want kids to understand from a young age, the underlying background knowledge, or the knowledge, or the comprehension.
I think true comprehension is inferential. There's that, in order to know if something or someone really comprehends what it is we want them to comprehend, there has to be that inferential, I know this because of how that person reacted. So perhaps with Nigel, the path is learning from users, learning from each other, and then being able to say, hey, I know this because I learned this already, and I can help you, my user, out and give you this knowledge, which would be inferential, which would then show comprehension. And that's what we expect kids to do when we teach them something. We know they can comprehend when they know the bigger meaning, which that is inferential.
Yes,
and
that-
to answer the why.
Yes, and that goes back to our theory of intelligence, that where we're arguing that the purpose of intelligence, the purpose of comprehension, is to not predict the future, but to control the future, to be able to know, understand what you need to do to increase the chances that the future will evolve the way you want it to evolve. That you do get that job, or I can't come up with other examples.
Well,
of
like
my
with a
own.
kid-
yeah,
with a
whatever,
kid-
whatever the given goal may be, that
Yeah.
you
Achieve graduate
successfully
college.
achieve, you achieve the goal that you've set out for yourself.
So, like you said, inferring stuff
Right.
is
A quick example on inferring: a toddler learns real quick based upon a parent's reaction if what they're doing is something that their parent wants them to do or something that the parent does not want them to do. And most kids are going to be like, whoa, mama just yelled at me, or mama just put me in my room, or whatever, or dad
Right.
got mad, or had a face that was
Right.
that I didn't like, that made me feel sad. That means I shouldn't do that again.
Yes.
That's comprehension, and that's not like, that's subconscious comprehension for a toddler that's learning that. But that shows that they comprehend, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
yes,
And then they don't do it again.
yes.
And I always say it like when I'm teaching more inference skills to my students, that like, okay, you look outside, you see a little girl walking down the street. She's got on rain boots and a raincoat and umbrella. What do you think is most likely happening right at that time? And they say, well, it's probably raining. I mean, and it's the best choice. Well, it could just be that she likes her rain boots and her coat and her umbrella. But what makes most sense with the situation?
Right.
So that's
Yes, and if you are a master of inferring knowledge from what you know,
Yeah.
that's how we invent stuff when we grow older. That's how
Exactly.
we invent a new deep space
Yeah.
rocket or whatever, or cure for cancer. So being able to infer is really one of the key things that we want to teach Nigel, which kind of goes into the second thing we wanted to talk about today, which our goal by this time next year is to be able to read a book to Nigel and have Nigel tell us what's going on in the book. And by that, we don't mean, what color is the duck? But why did the duck cross the road to be with the dog and the sheep and the cow?
Who are his friends?
Who are your friends? Exactly. Because you can infer those are friends, just like Bob and John are my friends.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, and it's funny because we spent this morning actually
Yeah.
planning out the next step on teaching Nigel how to read.
Well, we talked about first just really defining for Nigel what a friend is.
And family.
And family. And who those, through location, who might be work friends, who might be close friends that are, that you go places with often, or you go to their house often, or maybe, because friends is very ambiguous, because you also have acquaintances in that, and separating that, like teaching those friends, like, okay, so if we want him to know why Duck crosses the street, is his friends are over there and they're all going to go to dinner, I mean, I'm trying a children's book, so that's what they could do. They will go to dinner.
It's kind of funny because what do a group of different animals eat for dinner?
It's
Well-
probably a vegetarian diet.
Yeah, that's right.
but so you,
They're going to go
You
check
just-
out the new veggie restaurant.
There you go. There you
so
go.
you just
until both
described one of the reasons why general AI is so difficult, because it's not about memorization.
Yeah,
It's not like Bob is friend.
yeah,
what we need to teach, and which I'm assuming is what you're teaching children, is concepts.
Yes.
Because once you can conceptualize a piece of knowledge, it's a lot easier to apply it
Yes.
in a different way. That makes sense. Like Bob could be dad, could be friend, could be coworker. It really depends on the point of view and in the context of the situation. And that's one of the things that I guess we spent the morning talking about. But I guess what's everyone's view on what can we do? I guess let's give a little preview to our users here. Our first teaching exercise, which launches on Monday, is teaching about friends and family. So what can we do with that? First thing that's going to happen is Nigel's going to memorize who your friends are. And eventually he's going to conceptualize what the concept of friends means.
What do friends do
Yeah.
with each other?
Yeah,
you
the
know?
activities that you
Right.
Why are you my friend?
Yeah,
Why are you my
exactly.
friend?
Like, are you a happy hour friend, or are you
Right.
a friend that you just see because I have friends, I have lots of friends at work, but then there's some that I will go and I will actually spend my social time with. So, in a location, so teaching them, you're teaching Nigel, like, okay, I'm with my friend, Bob and Sarah, and I spend a lot of time with them. So that repeated, I guess, exposure or understanding, like, oh, you go to this place or you go to certain places with them.
So they're not only
Exactly.
they're not,
Not just
only a
at work
work
at this
friend,
one
but
place.
they're a social
But
friend
you're
as
going
well.
here, and maybe even a second location or something where you're.
Yeah.
And then I can see if you're
developing that
getting
concept.
one more level in depth and becoming a friend that becomes like your family. So then you have the work, we have the social, and then you have those
Like in
really
your home,
close-knit.
on a. I guess we're just gonna have to hang
Regular
out more. I know
basis.
we're gonna. She is friends
Which
right
might be
now.
that I mean that right there I think gives a really good example of how Nigel can be really helpful, because if it can recognize that you two are friends or we're friends and we enjoy spending time together and we don't do it enough, he can then recommend down the road, hey, you should spend time with those friends.
You have not been
Because
to McMinimans for a
you,
while.
you feel better, you are happier, you are a better person to your family. And so I think the users right now should be excited about getting to teach Nigel family, and then more specifically that my family involves maybe my wife, maybe my husband, maybe my children, and then hopefully
Partner.
or a partner, and teaching it the friends concept as well, but then being able to experiment with Nigel and say and have it tell you where a friend might be or where a family member might be if
And
you're
that's-
looking for that person.
And that's where we'll hopefully see real inference happening, right?
Yes.
Right,
Where's my
Right.
friend? Where's my friend Adam?
exactly. That's
He's
Inference
at the-
on
comprehension.
an AI
He's
level.
at the grocery
Exactly.
store.
Yeah.
The literally correct answer is he's at the grocery store.
Right.
But the preferred answer would be more like he's at the grocery store buying a cake for someone's birthday
Exactly.
party.
Who could be a friend of both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I think that's the problem with if you look at Siri and Alexa today is you get the literal answers. You get the database lookup answers.
Exactly.
Adam is at Safeway. That's it.
Well, you get the task-oriented answers, right? You don't get the contextual answer.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
You can see how that framework would never be able to handle something like identifying a family business that runs out of home.
Exactly.
So then you've got home and work being the same
Yes.
place, and your
Yes.
coworkers are your friends or your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, by being able to give an answer that's not literally answering a question, it's answering why you're asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when we're going to start seeing real intelligence, and really that's what we want to prove with reading a child's book to Nigel. That can Nigel infer knowledge?
Well, and to me, as an educator, I like education on all levels and new information. That's where the excitement is like, wow, it's that constant why piece that, you know, as a parent, as a teacher, go, oh my gosh, I'm just because I'm your mom. I just here, have some fruit snacks. So you stop asking me why, because children are always asking why. But the thing with Nigel that makes it so interesting is he's always searching for that better answer or a deeper answer, and that just through that repeated practice. And that I like you, and that's kind of touched on why are you excited or why are you interested in AI? That to me is the reason why. Like, wow, that's just amazing, and it really literally blows my mind that something could do that. That it's an app, you know, and
Well, I mean, I'm going to defend Nigel here. That
Yes.
Nigel's not an app.
he's not an app. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm so sorry,
See,
Nigel.
that's where
I
we
know
need
you're
to-
listening out there. I did not mean to offend you.
but no, and the thing is, there's no magic in this. It's basic logic, and I think someone once said that you can literally describe the entire universe with just some basic logical operations.
Mhm.
So there's nothing magic here. It is possible, but no, you're right. That's what's so exciting about Nigel, and it's kind of funny that the only question you need to ask to see if someone comprehends something is why.
Mhm.
It's a 3-letter word.
Yep.
Why? And that's really the only question that tests someone's comprehension level.
Mhm. And if you want to see them really freaked out, ask them why.
Yeah.
You want
Yes.
to see really wide eyes, like I don't know.
But so as Nigel grows, kind of get into the final topic here. As Nigel grows and he starts understanding why, he knows he needs to find a cure for cancer. So, you know, why I'm adding these two things together and these two ingredients together. Why? Starting asking all these why questions that at the surface doesn't make any sense. They seems to be so different. But Nigel is kind of trying to put everything together to find a cure for cancer, or to help someone get out of poverty, or whatever it is. When AI gets to that level, some people say this AI might decide to, well, you know,
Do bad
we don't
things.
need humans anymore. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Or it might kill our jobs.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
That's where the mind-blowing part starts, because
Mhm.
you know, it's hard to predict that, because we've all seen movies,
Yes.
you know, that have that possibility, and and you think, well, how? No, that's just science fiction. That's something that someone made up. But you're right, and I think that's something there has to be there. It's important to talk about, because obviously that is not. We are humans, and we don't want that to happen.
What don't we
Or
want to
like
happen?
like a Terminator type of, you know, we've
Oh,
all seen
yeah, yeah,
Terminator,
yeah.
we've
Well,
all seen
I-
AIs, you know,
I-
like the movie, like it's.
I think
and
even
it's-
if you're a cat, you don't want
Exactly.
someone go around killing cats, right?
Right.
Exactly. But you know, yeah.
Well, and before I really understood exactly how Nigel is different than other AI, you know, I've spent some time thinking within getting my master's in educational technology, really about the implications of artificial intelligence in education.
Because you wrote a paper about AI in education.
I did. It happened to be just exactly the same time when you were sitting down with me for parent-teacher conferences, and so it was like really one of those cool moments where everything came together. But I've been telling my students right now that you mentioned memorization before. Like, I need my kids to know more than just a bunch of memorization of facts. And if I'm just standing up there telling them the facts that they need to learn, they're not going to be getting to that deep thinking. And like with math right now, we've changed math teaching a lot this year. I can ask my phone, hey, what is 125 times 33? And I can get an instant answer. But if I'm giving my students some sort of problem that they need to be thinking about, they need to know, like, say it was 156 divided by 6. Well, if it was a story, what does that 156 mean? What does the 6 mean? What is their answer? Well, that's great. What if it has a remainder? One example this last week was a problem with chaperones. They had to take 100 students and put them out with 13 chaperones. well, it didn't go equally. So I had some kids saying, well, those 9 kids just don't get to go. Or they took those 9 extra kids and they put them into one group of the chaperones, so that chaperone had like 15 kids and the rest didn't have. So it worked,
Yeah.
but did it make sense with the story? Was it fair? So that kind of rationalizing and thinking. And just that really, really deep level of comprehension is where I see that I need to go with my teaching. Now, if Nigel can have that same level of deep thinking, then I might have to rethink my practice once again. But yeah.
Do you think Nigel will make you unemployed one day?
No.
I don't think that.
Yeah,
I think there's a certain piece
Yeah.
of human nature where we need social interaction, and that only comes from person to person.
Yeah.
And so I know in the world of education, technology is huge, and we constantly are trying to find ways to teach kids and educate kids about how to use this as something to help them better their education and their knowledge, as opposed to sitting and becoming just a video game console.
Right.
Yeah.
Using it as
And
a
so-
tool instead of just
Exactly.
as a form of
I think a
entertainment.
Right.
huge piece of AI
Creating
is
with
the
it rather than
education
consuming.
piece
Right,
of it,
right.
and really being transparent about how is this going to help society, and why is it important, and how do we maintain humanity by still being social, by still encouraging peace and diversity and all those other
Yeah.
things that we want that are in our world anyway, and how do we let this become a piece of that that assists us in whatever way is possible.
Like for
to
one
do so.
thing that, I mean, one of his senses that Nigel does not have is touch. And touch is so paramount to our,
Right.
to human interaction.
Right.
Sure.
But anything that Nigel doesn't have today doesn't mean it won't have
Yeah.
tomorrow, right? So tomorrow, Nigel might be in some sort of a robot arm or something
Okay.
like that that's touching stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, will there be a point where then it's in a robot arm that mimics human touch and can give me a hug, which then gives me my emotional reaction to that physical touch?
Well, and since we're starting with the friends and the family, you know, when you have children, that's where you start with them. That you raise them and you love them, and you teach them that sense of home through just your daily interactions. So what I would hope, like for that future, is that that's his value system, so to speak. Does that make sense? I guess. I mean, it's hard to his.
Okay.
I mean,
Devil's advocate, because you're going to have users that
yeah.
potentially, and I guess this might be where people will say, ooh, no AI, you know, you're going to have users that get a hold of this that want to do bad things to the world and use it for that purpose, which he can learn too.
Yes.
And so
That's
then
true.
you have all of those
Wasn't
nodes
really a
that come
topic for
in.
this one, but
But-
maybe we should touch into it
But it kind
because
of goes with the
because a
how do
lot
you
of-
feel about AI.
yes, because a lot of people are, you know, there's like, you know, Google has an ethic commission now for AI, and a lot of people have signed these letters saying that we promise not to, you know,
Right.
do whatever. Nigel doesn't, there is no right or wrong, moral or immoral
Right.
stuff
Right.
built into Nigel. And quite frankly, let's just take California. A year ago today, smoking weed was bad, was illegal. Today, it's legal. A year ago, you might risk going to jail. Probably not, but you might risk going to jail. Today, police won't even care about what you're doing unless you're doing it in a public place. So, right or wrong, moral or immoral, keeps changing.
Yeah.
And one of the choices we made is the only laws that Nigel is going to follow are the laws of physics. And the most important law there is, not the law, but the most important thing with physics is cause and effect.